So, now you've heard kind of a basic, big biblical idea, one that, like I said, I'm sure you've heard before. This idea that all of us fit uniquely into what Paul calls in that passage the body of Christ, where we all have these unique passions and strengths and talents that we give to each other, and somehow as we do that, we see Christ in each other and other people see Jesus in us. Well, I want to talk to you about how we as a church are going to take some quantifiable steps forward in our love our neighbor mission by building on that basic premise. First, here are some things that we, myself and those on the steering team and some others, have been hearing a lot over the last 3 months as we as a church have learned together and talked together, and you've done it in your small groups. And these are 3 things that caused us to come up with the idea you're going to hear about today. It's us trying to find a way to put these into practice. First, number 1 up there on the screen, you need to know that the single most recurrent thing that we heard from our small groups as they talked about our Love Your Neighbor mission is that they really, really wanted to do it more. But they felt like they didn't know all the ways that they could help each other or help each other love neighbors that we're trying to love. There was a lack of comprehensive church-wide communication. There wasn't a system. So much of it has just been interpersonal and word of mouth, and even for some it was frustrating because they felt like they really wanted to help each other. They had gifts and strengths to offer, but they just didn't know how to find out about the opportunities where they could do that. Well, we listened to that observation. We certainly agree with it. Another recurrent idea that came to us from several directions, not the least of which was, again, our small group conversations, is that all of us realize that money is part of this, but it's not all of it, and honestly, it's not even the majority of it. A lot of what we've done over the last few years as a church is we've changed our church finances to reflect our Love Your Neighbor value. In that, we try to prioritize putting money aside that we all can use to reach out and love our neighbors or our neighbors here who are part of our church family. Well, that's great, but there's so much more. In fact, so much of it is really a personal investment, an investment of self in other people, like these gifts of hands, head, and heart that we were talking about a moment ago. And honestly, some of you in your groups identified this. It's harder to do that. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is write a check. It is harder to say, I will give of myself, even if it's the best of myself, to someone who needs exactly who I am right now. And last, we were told from several different directions, our consultants and several other sources, that we needed to realize that there's probably a significant number of people who do not attend this church who would love to find a way to get on board with this idea of just being about loving our neighbor. That they would find that simplicity and that clarity and that focus on love and compassion exactly what they wanted, exactly what they needed. It would speak to their heart the way that it speaks to ours who call our church home. Well, we listen to that. And so, the idea that we have that we would like to put before you is what we call the Love Your Neighbor Network. And here's the basic idea. We are working on the logistics of it as we speak. It's likely going to be rolled out in stages. Don't worry about the logistics yet. Catch the big idea. And see if the big idea in doing this together doesn't fan the flame of who you want to be as a Christian and what we want to be together as a church family. The Love Your Neighbor network is greatly symbolized by the graphic you see on the screen. It is a connection of people, a relational connection of people, speaking to one another, requesting of one another, and responding to one another. It's simple, it's efficient, it's easy, it's straightforward. And what it allows all of us as a church family to do, and even those outside of us who want to participate, is to connect together so that we can offer the best of who we are to one another. Imagine if there were a way for you at any time on Sunday mornings, during the week online in several different ways. Imagine if at any time you could very simply fill out a short form about any of the things you see on the screen. Please note, most of it's not about money, right? This is not merely requesting money because you or someone else is in a financial crisis. That could be part of it. No, this is way better than that and way bigger than that. Imagine if you find yourself at a moment when you have a question, a pressing question in life, and you don't know to whom to turn. Well, up to now in our church's life, do you know who people usually turn to? Their friends, who may not know the answer either, though they're going to try, or me. And I assure you, I may not know the answer, but I'll try real hard. Imagine if instead you could take this question and turn it around to everybody here and anybody else who wanted to participate. I've got prostate cancer. I've never done this before. I could use help from somebody who has prostate cancer to talk me through what this is like, what the options are. Well, I really don't. Thank you, Tammy. I personally really don't have prostate cancer. Right. No, I'm not going to drop it on you like that. Good grief. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm dying in 6 weeks. No, I'm not going to do that. I realize I have no taste, but I have more taste than that. You see it? Boy, you know, I just had a child. Just had a new baby with Down syndrome. I don't know where to get help. I need to talk to somebody because this is hard and I don't know what I'm doing. Imagine if you had a network of people you could tap into. Imagine if, for the more sensitive requests, you didn't have to put your name. That way your anonymity is secure, but people could still respond to you and offer help. Imagine if you have a neighbor in your apartment complex and they're all alone in South Grand Rapids, and they just got evicted and they need moving help to their next apartment. Imagine if you could send out a request and say to your church family, I need help, because this is a neighbor right now who needs our love, and we could respond. Imagine. Imagine if you could send out a request for all those things that you see on the screen. Anything. And imagine if people could respond out of the best of who they are and offer that to you or someone else that you know who needs it. Simple idea, powerful results, I think. So imagine, here's the process. Very simple. Every week, there will be a list of these submissions of all different kinds put together. You'll see them on Sunday. You'll see them online in these two different places or different ways. And all you do is look down through the list. And then you say to yourself, wow, you know who I am and my experience and what I care about, I think it could really help that person or that request. And so now I am going to move, I am going to respond, because I understand that this is what I'm supposed to do. Who I am exists for the common good. And so I will respond and help. You see it? Do you see how simple it can be, but how effective it could be? This is just people living for people and for the common good. And the real cool thing is, you can invite other people to be a part of this. They don't have to go to our church. If they want to make a request, great. If they want to go see the list online and they want to help out, they see something they'd like to help with, great. They can. This doesn't have to be something that is isolated to us. In fact, we'd be really, really wise to not do that. Because there are people out there right now, your friends, your coworkers, etc., who yearn to get down to the heart of what Christianity has always been and find a way to tangibly, specifically do it instead of just talking about it. They would yearn to be a part of something like this. So, this is the first of two big ideas you're going to hear this morning. What I'd like you to do is, I'm going to send around a summary of this tomorrow if you're on the email list, or you can check our Facebook or website page just so you can mull it over some more. We'd like you to begin to consider whether or not you think, yeah, that's a really good idea. Or, wow, I've thought about that, and here's a way that maybe we could do that a little better. Or here's a specific idea that I have within this that might make it work a little better. Great, we want to hear from you. Because this may be our idea on the front end, but in the end, we want you to feel like you own it, and it's yours. And this is the way that we are going to go about our Love Your Neighbor mission together. You will also find on the back of your leaflet that I am going to be at 3 local restaurants and coffee houses throughout the week, specifically so that if you want to come and talk about these ideas you hear about, come on by. I would love to hear what you have to say. Or just drop me a line and email me or call me. Let me know what you think about what you hear. And if you see that this is a way that we can get more specific and better at this mission that we say we want to be about together. And you'll hear more, obviously, throughout the next few months as we get the logistics ironed out. But let the idea captivate you and engage your imagination right now. And see if you feel, like those of us who are on the front end of this, that this is really a powerful, simple tool or way for us to live out who we say we want to be. Would you pause with me and let's pray? And the worship team can take the stage to get ready to sing one more time. Go ahead and be seated. So, here at the end of our service, let me present to you the second of 4 big ideas that we think have emerged over the last 3 months of praying and dialoguing and learning together about how we as a church family can better be about our Love Your Neighbor mission in a way that's very us and specific to the church that we are. Okay, so no. Do you have the slides at the end, Ken? Well, you know what? I'm going to start talking if I notice that they change. What you heard me talk about earlier in the service about is a how. It's a how-to we go about doing this together. This idea of a Love Your Neighbor network that we put together, all of us, and we simply submit and then respond. We request and respond together out of the best of who we are. Let me talk to you for a moment about who. Because we think one of the things that's emerged as we've considered who we are and we pay close attention to what we've done and how God has used us over the last few years together, there seems to be a pretty specific who that comes to the surface. Next week, we're going to talk about a couple more how-tos. This is about who. Think about it for a moment. If you think, okay, RiverTree is my church home now, has been for a few years. Who have I seen us impact the most? What kinds of neighbors have we been able to help in a way that maybe other churches haven't, or haven't with the frequency that we have? To us, when we thought about that, there is at least one group that comes to mind that we want to pay close attention to. Can you guess who it is? It's single moms. You probably are not aware of how many single women and single moms our church family has invested in, has reached out to, and even who call our church home because we did so. They could be coming out of an abusive situation, and we invested in them in that time of crisis, and now they call our church home. Maybe they went through a divorce, which many of us know how painful that can be. And instead of ostracizing them or estranging them in a way that they themselves would tell you they've experienced elsewhere, we love them and embraced them, invited them into our family. Maybe it was a single mom who was struggling to stand on her own 2 feet financially, and we came alongside them and gave them the support that they needed. We would say to you, RiverTree, let me tell you something you're good at. You are really good at seeing single moms and women in distress, in need of community and love and relationship, just a place to belong. And you are really good at reaching out to those women and inviting them into our family. We think that these are neighbors we need to be more intentional about together as we go forward. And we need to build ways that we do this together. We can talk about what some of those are down the road, but again, don't get hung up on the specifics yet. See if you buy the big idea. Do you agree that this is a group of neighbors that our church has already shown itself to be really good at caring for? This is a group of people that we love instinctually together. Maybe we need to be more intentional together in how we go about loving our neighbor to focus on this group of people. Over the next few weeks, consider that. Talk to us about that. Let's see if we can't build our Love Your Neighbor mission on this building block